iPads, factory whistles, and nightcaps. What's stopping you from sleeping? Many of us are beyond tired. Why? What's precisely about modernity has so perverted our otherwise instinctual sleep patterns, eroded our freedom to sleep, and thwarted our ability to do so soundly across the night? For those of us who do not have a sleep disorder, the reasons underlying these states of sleep deficiency can seem hard to pinpoint, or, if seemingly clear, are erroneous. Beyond longer commute times and sleep procrastination caused by late evening television and digital entertainment, both of which are not unimportant in their top and tail snipping of our sleep time and that of our children, five key factors how powerful they changed how much and how well we sleep. 1. Constant electric light as well as LED light. Regular, regularized temperature. 3. Caffeine, discussed in Chapter 2. 4. Alcohol. And 5. A legacy of pension time cards. It is this set of societally engineered forces that are responsible for many an individual's mistaken belief that they are suffering from medical insomnia. The dark side of modern light. At 255-257 Pearl Street in Lower Manhattan, not far from the Brooklyn Bridge, in the site of arguably the most unassuming yet seismic shift in our human history, Herr Thomas Edison built the first power generating station to support an electrified society for the first time. The human race had a truly scalable method of unbuckling itself from our planet's natural 24-hour cycle of light and dark. With a proverbial flick of a switch came a whimsical ability to control our environmental light, and with it our wake and sleep phases. We, and not the rotating mechanics of planet Earth, would now decide when it was night and when it was day. We are the only species that has managed to light the night to such dramatic effect. Humans are predominantly visual creatures. More than a third of our brain is devoted to processing visual information, far exceeding that given over to sounds or smells or those supporting language and movement. For early Homo sapiens, most of our activities would have ceased after the sunset. They had to, as they were predicted on vision, supported by daylight. The advent of fire and its limited halo of light offered an extension to post-dusk activities, but the effect was modest. In the early evening glow of firelight, nominal social activities such as singing and storytelling have been documented in hunter-gatherer tribes like the Hadza and the San. Yet the practical limitations of firelight nullified any significant influence on the timing of our sleep-wake patterns. Gas and oil burning lamps and their forerunners, candles, offered a more forceful influence upon sustained nighttime activities. Gaze at a Renoir painting of 19th century Parisian knife, and you will see the extended reach of artificial light spilling out of homes and onto the streets. Gas lanterns began bathing entire city districts with illumination. In this moment, the influence of man-made lights began its re-engineering of human sleep patterns, and it would only escalate the nocturnal rhythms of whole societies. Just individuals or single families became quickly subject to light at night, and so began our advancing march toward later bedtimes. For the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master 24-hour clock of the brain, the worst was yet to come. Edison's Manhattan power station enabled the mass adoption of incandescent light. Edison did not create the first incandescent light bulb. That honor went to the English chemist Humphrey Davy in 1802, but in the mid 1870s, Edison Electric Light Company began developing a reliable, mass-marketable light bulb. Incandescent light bulbs, and decades later, fluorescent light bulbs guaranteed that modern humans would no longer spend much of the night in darkness as we had for millennia past. 100 years post Edison, we now understand the biological mechanisms by which the electrical light bulbs managed to veto our natural timing and quality of sleep. The visible light spectrum that which our eyes can see runs the gamut from shorter wavelengths, approximately 380 nanometers, that we perceive as cooler violets and blues, to the longer wavelengths around around 700 nanometers that we sense as warmer yellows and reds. Sunlight contains a powerful blend of all of these colors and those in between, as the iconic Pink Floyd album cover of Dark Side of the Moon illuminates, so to speak. Before Edison and before gas and oil lamps, the setting sun would take with it this full stream of daylight from our eyes, sensed by the 24-hour clock within the brain. The suprachiasmatic nucleus described in Chapter 2, the loss of daylight, informs our suprachiasmatic nucleus that nighttime is now in session, time to release brake pedal on our pineal gland, allowing it to unleash vast quantities of melatonin that signal to our brain and bodies that darkness has arrived, that it is time for bed. Appropriately scheduled tiredness followed by sleep would normally occur several hours after dusk across our human collective. Electric light put an end to this natural order of things. It redefined the meaning of midnight. For generations thereafter, artificial evening lights, even that of modest strength or looks, will fool your suprachiasmatic nucleus into believing the sun has not yet set. The brake on melatonin, which should otherwise have been released with the timing of dusk, remains forcefully applied within your brain under duress of electric lights. The artificial light that batters our modern indoor worlds will therefore halt the forward progress of biological time that is normally signaled by the evening surge in melatonin. Sleep in modern humans is late from taking off the evening runaway, which would naturally occur somewhere between 8 and 10 p.m., just as we observe in hunter-gatherer tribes. Artificial lights in modern societies thus tricks us into believing night is still day, and thus do so using a psychological light. The degree to which evening electric light wins back your internal 24-hour clock is important, usually 2 to 3 hours each evening on average. To contextualize that, let's say you are reading this book at 11 p.m. in New York City, having been surrounded by electric lights all evening. Your bedside clock may be registering 11 p.m., but the omnipresence of artificial light has paused the internal tick-tocking of time by hindering the release of melatonin. Biologically speaking, you've been dragged westward across the continent to the internal equivalent of Chicago time, 10 p.m., or even San Francisco time, 8 p.m. Artificial evening and nighttime light can therefore masquerade as sleep-onset insomnia, the inability to begin sleeping soon after getting into bed. By delaying the release of melatonin, artificial evening light makes it considerably less likely that you will be able to fall asleep at a reasonable time. When you do finally turn out the bedside light, hoping that sleep will come quickly is made all the more difficult. It will be some time before the rising tide of melatonin is able to submerge your brain and body in peak concentrations instructed by the darkness that only now has begun. In other words, before you are biologically capable of organizing the onset of a robust, stable sleep, what of a petite bedside lamp? How much can that really influence your suprachiasmatic nucleus? A lot, it turns out. Even a hint of dim light. 8 to 10 lux has been shown to delay the release of nighttime melatonin in humans. The feeblest of bedside lamps pumps out twice as much, anywhere from 20 to 80 lux. A subtly lit living room, where most people reside in the hours before bed, will hum at around 200 lux, despite being just 1 to 2% of the strength of daylight. This ambient level of incandescent home lighting can have 50% of the melatonin suppressing influence within the brain. Just when things looked as bad as they could get for the suprachiasmatic nucleus with incandescent lamps, a new invention in 1997 made the situation far worse: blue light emitting diodes, or blue LEDs. For this invention, Shuji Nakamura, Isamu Agasaki, and Hiroshi Amano won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2014. It was a remarkable achievement. Blue LED lights offer considerable advantages over incandescent lamps in terms of lower energy demands and, for the lights themselves, longer lifespans, but they may be inadvertently shortening our own. The light receptors in the eye that communicate daytime to the suprachiasmatic nucleus are most sensitive to short wavelength light within the blue spectrum, the exact sweet spot where blue LEDs are most powerful. As a consequence, evening blue LED light has twice the harmful impact on nighttime melatonin suppression than the warm yellow light from all incandescent bulbs, even when their lux intensities are matched. Of course, few of us stare headlong into the glare of a LED lamp each evening, but we do stare at LED-powered laptop screens, smartphones, and tablets each night, sometimes for many hours, often with these devices just feet or even inches away from our retinas. A recent survey of over 1,500 American adults found that 90% of individuals regularly used some form of portable electronic device 60 minutes or less before bedtime. It has a very real impact on your melatonin release and thus ability to time the onset of sleep. One of the earliest studies found that using an iPad and electronic tablet enriched with blue LED lights for 2 hours prior to bed blocked the otherwise rising levels of melatonin by a significant 23%. A more recent report took the story several concerning steps further. Healthy adults lived for a 2 week period in a tightly controlled laboratory environment. The 2 week period was split in half, containing two different experimental arms that everyone passed through. One, 5 nights of reading a book on an iPad for several hours before bed. No other iPad uses, such as email or internet, were allowed. And two, 5 nights of reading a printed paper book for several hours before bed, with the two conditions randomized in terms of which the participants experience as first or second. Compared to reading a printed book, reading on an iPad suppressed melatonin release by over 50% at night. Indeed, iPad reading delayed the rise of melatonin by up to 3 hours relative to the natural rise in the same individuals when reading a printed book. When reading on the iPad, their melatonin peak, and thus instruction to sleep, did not occur until the early morning hours rather than before midnight, and surprisingly, individuals took longer to fall asleep after iPad reading relative to print copy reading. But did reading on the iPad actually change sleep quality or quantity above and beyond the timing of melatonin? It did, in three concerning ways. First, individuals lost significant amounts of REM sleep following iPad reading. Second, research subjects felt less rested and sleepier throughout the day following iPad use at night. Third was a lingering after effect with participants suffering a 90-minute lag in their evening and rising melatonin levels for several days after iPad use ceased, almost like digital hangover effect. Using LED devices at night impacts our natural sleep rhythms, quality of our sleep, and how alert we feel during the day. Societal and public health ramifications discussed in the penultimate chapter are not small. I, like many of you, have seen young children using electronic tablets at every opportunity throughout the day and evening. The devices are a wonderful piece of technology. They enrich the lives and education of our youth, but such technology is also enriching their eyes and brains with powerful blue light that has a damaging effect on sleep, the sleep that young developing brains so desperately need in order to flourish. Due to its omnipresence, solutions for limiting exposure to artificial evening light are challenging. A good start is to create lowered dim lights in the rooms where you spend your evening hours. Avoid powerful overhead lights. Mood lighting is the order of the night. Some committed individuals will even wear yellow tinted glasses indoors in the afternoon and evening to help filter out the most harmful blue light that suppresses melatonin. Maintaining complete darkness throughout the night is equally critical, the easiest fix for which comes from blackout curtains. Finally, you can install software on your computers, phones, and tablet devices gradually desaturate the harmful blue lights as evening progresses. Turning down the nightcap alcohol. Short of prescription sleeping pills, the most misunderstood of all sleep aids is alcohol. Many individuals believe alcohol helps them to fall asleep more easily or even offers sounder sleep throughout the night. Both are resolutely untrue. Alcohol is in a class of drugs called sedatives. It binds to receptors within the brain that prevent neurons from firing their electrical impulses. Saying that alcohol is a sedative often confuses people, as alcohol in moderate doses helps individuals liven up and become more social. How can a sedative enliven you? The answer comes down to the fact that your increased sociability is caused by sedation of one part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, early in the timeline of alcohol's creeping effect. As we have discussed, this frontal lobe region of the human brain helps control our impulses and restrains our behavior. Alcohol immobilizes that part of our brain first. As a result, we loosen up, becoming less controlled and more extroverted. But anatomically, targeted brain sedation it still is. Give alcohol a little more time and it begins to sedate other parts of the brain, dragging them down into a stupefied state. Just like the prefrontal cortex, you begin to feel sluggish as the inebriated torpor sets in. This is your brain slipping into sedation. Your desire and ability to remain conscious are decreasing, and you can let go of consciousness more easily. I am very deliberately avoiding the term sleep. However, because sedation is not sleep, alcohol sedates you out of wakefulness, but it does not induce natural sleep. The electrical brainwave state you enter via alcohol is not that of natural sleep, rather, it is akin to a light form of anesthesia. Yet, this is not the worst of it when considering the effects of the evening nightcap on your slumber. More than its artificial sedating influence, alcohol dismantles an individual's sleep in an additional two ways. First, alcohol fragments sleep, littering the night with brief awakenings. Alcohol-infused sleep is therefore not continuous and as a result not restorative. Unfortunately, most of these nighttime awakenings go unnoticed by the sleeper since they don't remember them. Individuals therefore fail to link alcohol consumption the night before with feelings of next day exhaustion caused by the undetected sleep disruption sandwiched in between. Keep an eye out for that coincidental relationship in yourself and or others. Second, alcohol is one of the most powerful suppressors of REM sleep that we know of. When the body metabolizes alcohol, it produces byproduct chemicals called aldehydes and ketones. The aldehydes, in particular, will block the brain's ability to generate REM sleep. It's rather like the cerebral version of cardiac arrest, preventing the pulsating beat of brain waves that otherwise power dream sleep. People consuming even moderate amounts of alcohol in the afternoon and or evening are thus depriving themselves of dream sleep. There is a sad and extreme demonstration of this fact observed in alcoholics who, when drinking, can show little in the way of any identifiable REM sleep. Going for such long stretches of time without dream sleep produces a tremendous build-up in and backlog of pressure to obtain REM sleep, so great, in fact, that it inflicts a frightening consequence upon these individuals: aggressive intrusions of dreaming while they are wide awake. The pent-up dream sleep pressure erupts forcefully into waking consciousness, causing hallucinations, delusions, and gross disorientation. The technical term for this terrifying psychotic state is delirium tremens. Should the addict enter a rehabilitation program and abstain from alcohol, the brain will begin feasting on REM sleep, binging in a desperate effort to recover that which it has been long starved of, an effect called the REM sleep rebound. We observe precisely the same consequences caused by excess REM sleep pressure in individuals who have tried to break the sleep deprivation world record before this life-threatening feat was banned. You don't have to be using alcohol to levels of abuse, however, to suffer its deleterious REM sleep disrupting consequences, as one study can attest. Recall that one function of REM sleep is to aid in memory integration and association, the type of information processing required for developing grammatical rules in new language learning, or in synthesizing large sets of related facts into an interconnected whole. To wit, researchers recruited a large group of college students for a 7-day study. The participants were assigned to one of three experimental conditions. On day one, all the participants learned a novel, artificial grammar. Rather than Rather like learning a new computer coding language or a new form of algebra. It was just the type of memory task that REM sleep is known to promote. Everyone learned the new material to a high degree of proficiency on that first day, around 90% accuracy. Then, a week later, the participants were tested to see how much of that information had been solidified by the 6 nights of intervening sleep. What distinguished the three groups was the type of sleep they had. In the first group, the control condition, participants were allowed to sleep naturally and fully for all intervening nights. In the second group, the experimenters got the students a little drunk just before bed on the first night after daytime learning. They loaded up the participants with 2 to 3 shots of vodka mixed with orange juice, standardizing the specific blood alcohol amount on the basis of gender and body weight. In the third group, they allowed the participants to sleep naturally on the first and even second night after learning, and then got them similarly drunk before bed on night 3. Note that all three groups learned the material on day 1 while sober and were tested while sober on day 7. This way, any difference in memory among the three groups could not be explained by the direct effects of alcohol on memory formation or later recall, but must be due to the disruption of a memory facilitation that occurred in between. On day 7, participants in the control condition remembered everything they had originally learned, even showing an enhancement of abstraction and retention of knowledge relative to initial levels of learning, just as we'd expect from good sleep. In contrast, those who had their sleep laced with alcohol on the first night after learning suffered what can conservatively be described as partial amnesia 7 days later, forgetting more than 50% of all that original knowledge. This fits well with evidence we discussed earlier that of the brain's non negotiable requirements for sleep the first night after learning for the purposes of memory processing. The real surprise came in the results of the third group of participants. Despite getting 2 full nights of natural sleep after initial learning, having their sleep doused with alcohol on the third night still resulted in almost the same degree of amnesia. 40% of the knowledge they had worked so hard to establish on day one was forgotten. The overnight work of REM sleep, which normally assimilates complex memory knowledge, had been interfered with by the alcohol. More surprising, perhaps, was the realization that the brain is not done processing that knowledge after the first night of sleep. Memories remain perilously vulnerable to any disruption of sleep, including that from alcohol, even up to 3 nights after learning, despite 2 full nights of natural sleep prior. Framed practically, let's say that you are a student cramming for an exam on Monday. Diligently, you study all of the previous Wednesday. Your friends beckon you to come out that night for drinks, but you know how important sleep is, so you decline. On Thursday, friends again ask you to grab a few drinks in the evening, but to be safe, you turn them down and sleep soundly a second night. Finally, Friday rolls around. Now 3 nights after your learning session, everyone is heading out for a party and drinks. Surely, after being so dedicated to slumber across the first 2 nights after learning, you can now cut loose, knowing those memories have been safely secured and fully processed within your memory banks. Sadly, not so. Even now, alcohol consumption will wash away much of that which you learned and can abstract by blocking your REM sleep. How long is it before those new memories are finally safe? We actually do not yet know, though we have studies underway that span many weeks. What we do know is that sleep has not finished tending to those newly planted memories by night 3. I elicit audible groans when I present these findings to my undergraduates in lectures. The politically incorrect advice I would, of course, never give is this: go to the pub for a drink in the morning, that way the alcohol will be out of your system before sleep. Sleep advice aside, what is the recommendation when it comes to sleep and alcohol? It is hard not to sound puritanical, but the evidence is so strong regarding alcohol's harmful effects on sleep that to do otherwise would be doing you and the science a disservice. Many people enjoy a glass of wine with dinner, even an aperitif thereafter. But it takes your liver and kidneys many hours to degrade and extract that alcohol, even if you are an individual with fast acting enzymes for ethanol decomposition. Nightly alcohol will disrupt your sleep, and the annoying advice of abstinence is the best and most honest I can offer.